Life is a series of moments. Some are good, some are bad. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. It's how you choose to view the moment that makes the difference. A wise and successful businessman was asked why he continued to fly commercial airlines when he could most certainly afford a plane of his own. His response was, I choose to spend my money differently at this time. Every day we all make hundreds of choices. What you choose each morning when your feet hit the floor affects the results of your entire day and those around you. I encourage you to choose joy. I encourage you to focus on positivity and make perfect moments. Ben lived life to the fullest, good and bad. I choose to remember the good times, not the bad. I choose to remember the laughter, not the tears. I choose to remember the wins, not the losses. I especially choose to remember the I love yous. My mom always said Ben was the one person who could really push my buttons. And he did that quite often, as most of you know, even as an adult. But what I choose to remember were his final words to me. Don't be mad at me, Mom. Please promise me you won't be mad. I love you more than anyone. So tonight, I've chosen to share some of the lighter moments of his life with you. The day we brought him home from the hospital, our favorite babysitter came over to see him, and he initiated her into the world of boys, if you get my drift. When he was about 2 years old, I had him all dressed up for church. I turned my back for only a few seconds, and he poured a new bottle of Karo syrup all over his corduroy suit and my kitchen carpet. We never did figure out how he got that lid off. That was not so much a perfect moment, but I do choose to remember it. Ben loved all kinds of sports, especially baseball, golf, and basketball. This is where the number 30 became his. He followed the Cubs, Bears, and Bulls, especially when Ryan Sandberg, Michael Jordan, and the Fridge were playing. Days of Thunder was his favorite movie. We eventually had to replace the old VHS tape that broke with a DVD. One of Ben's favorite vacation spots was the Ozarks. Randy has memories of a trip there with Ben the summer after his graduation, and Ben helped plan a family trip there in 2013. I choose to remember those special times. He joined Randy at Glenda's studio of dance when he was about 3, and he took a tap and gymnastics class. We told him taking dance and gymnastic classes would make him a better athlete, and he actually bought into it, at least for a while. A few years later, Brandy was part of the dance cast of Annie. I entered her into the Hancock County Talent Show, where she sang the song Tomorrow with her faithful pup by her side. And yes, they won the show. That was definitely a perfect moment. Ben was 8 years old when Brittany was born, and he doted on her as a big brother would. He was not, however, as excited when he learned another little sibling was on the way. He referred to the new baby as She-Boy, but he was really hoping for a brother. When we called to share the news with him and Brandy that they had a new sister, his comment was, "Oh no, not another sister." But it didn't take long for him to be a good big brother, playing Barbies, polishing their fingernails, and even learning to braid their hair. He settled in as the only boy amidst 3 sisters and always referred to himself as my favorite son. Brittany shared a couple of stories. The first was when she and Benji duct taped Brienne to a chair and he stuck a dirty sock in her mouth. Where the heck was I at? And memories of going to Mexico with him. Again, where the heck was I at, letting him take those 2 girls out of the country? I plead the fifth. Racing was in his blood from the time he was about 5 years old, when a couple of Randy's friends from work raced at Quincy Raceways. We started going to watch, and while Brandy played with the other little girls, Ben sat on the front row of the bleachers in a white race suit I had found in the JCPenney Christmas catalog. He only moved from that spot when he was hungry or had to go to the bathroom. After the races, he always wanted to go see the cars and sit in them. From that point on, he liked to go to the races, but as he got involved in summer baseball, racing took a back burner. He took his graduation money and bought a race car that he and his dad hid in the garage. When I found out, he remembers I didn't speak to either of them for 2 weeks. I choose to remember that differently. But of course, the whole family was there at the Macomb Dirt Oval for his first race. The old guys were going to show this young punk what racing was all about. He got ran into the wall and didn't know enough to let go of the steering wheel and broke his hand and had to get a cast on. Before the next Saturday's race, his buddy took a handsaw and cut off the cast, and he kept racing. I remember a race day that he borrowed my Explorer to pull the car to the track. I didn't know until a few weeks later that the trailer wasn't attached to the Explorer correctly. And as he was driving down the highway, the car and the trailer went its own way while he was going another. Luckily, his buddy was following him, and they were able to stop the trailer before it hit anyone or anything. Ben was always number 30, and the bright colors of his car were easy to spot going around the track. He was in and out of racing, and after moving to Kalamazoo, he went full steam ahead, first with an enduro car and then a street stock. He made some very good friends during those years, like Tim Fenska, Jason Radishak, Tim Hagner, and a few others. Our family that supported his racing was always there, and of course, his brother from another mother, Ben Raber. I choose to remember many fun times with my boys. Those were perfect moments. One particular evening, however, we all headed up to Spartan Speedway near Lansing. Brandy and the girls and I sat in the stands wearing our SOC Nation shirts while Bob joined Ben and a few others in the pits as Raber wheeled the car. There was some miscommunication between the tower and Raber, and as he sat at the finish line waiting to get clarification, the tow truck pulled up and towed him off the track. Raber wasn't happy and proceeded to make a hand gesture, which appeared to be aimed at the crowd. Our guys in the pits did not see what he had done and had no idea why they were all being escorted off the premises. As Brandy and I and the girls slinked down the bleachers in our widely recognized t-shirts, I was fuming. When Ben called me on the way home, I told him I had never been so embarrassed to be part of the team as I was that night. He had no idea what I was talking about, and when I told him, he and Bob bust out laughing. I didn't see the humor in it at the time, but looking back, that was a night I choose to never forget. What great memories. Raber felt so bad that he had made Mama mad, but that was quickly forgotten when we all realized someone had stolen Raber's truck while we were at the track. It is a night I will never forget. Ben raced at several tracks, but Kalamazoo, Galesburg, and Springport were his favorite. In 2013, he won a feature at each one of those tracks, which were the highlights of his racing career. More perfect moments. Some of the best memories were made at the racetracks. The people we met who turned into our race family, gathering at the finish line with a checkered flag, reliving the race afterwards in the pits, sponsoring Cartapalooza with the big-ass trophies. And who can forget Super Shoe? Some things are better left untold, but I still choose to remember them. While Ben was busy selling cars at Seeley's, I tried to convince him to use send-out cards to grow his clients. It took some persuading, even though he had been the recipient of the cards for some time. In 2012, a send-out card seminar was coming up in Detroit, and Gail and I went to work on him, promising him a big steak dinner if he went along. If you knew him at all, he liked to eat, and he liked good steaks. None of us knew that I would end up being honored with the Gratitude Award that weekend, and I shared my story of sending cards to Ben and how those cards got him through a tough time and changed his life and others. Cody asked Ben to come up on stage with us, and that was the first time that they met and were on stage together. Over the next 2 years, I was able to watch as their friendship grew into a brotherhood that nothing could change. Even when Ben stepped back from SOC for a while, he and Cody remained close. When I look back on that day, I remember how humbled I was at receiving the award, and having Ben there with me made it more special. He chose to go with me that weekend, and meeting Cody changed his life. Ben advanced to the rank of senior manager rather quickly and received several corporate awards, including 2 Circle of Excellence awards, the Revolution Award, and he was featured in the corporate magazine and served several times on the Eagle's Nest board. Gail came up with the term 13%, which meant to focus on positivity instead of the 87% negativity that surrounds us daily. You would often see Ben posting hashtag 13% on his Facebook page and others to encourage them, and often his friends would post back to him when he was feeling low. He went so far as to have t-shirts made that a group of us wore at convention. We choose positivity, and that is what I choose to remember. Ben chose to share his life story from the stage several times, even though he was really never comfortable in front of a crowd. And following the example of his mentor, on a plane from Kalamazoo to Vegas, he wrote the words to this song and later produced this video, of which he was very proud.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Ben Beeler, what up? What up, Biz? Man, everybody talking about this SOC thing like, what does it mean? Get up. I mean, they're asking like, get up. What is this gratitude? Everybody, get up. And won't you take a second and just get up? Tell them about it, my brother. Yeah. I said SOC, how can I explain it? A simple explanation. Started small, now it's a SOC nation. It's time to go get that move on. I know that you've been waiting. I met Cody Bateman, made an I am statement. You pick a card, send it. Straight from the heart, meant it. Connect with other people and your heart starts mending. A 30-day challenge, a perfect life balance. Take the word great, add the attitude, and then that gives you that gratitude. Have you ever sent a card out to somebody just to say hello? Or when they feeling down or even when they feeling low? To lift them up again, giving them a sense of hope. To make them laugh again, send it with a little joke. Well, that's the attitude, the 30-day gratitude. Challenge you today to try to send a card or 2. Guaranteed to make a difference in somebody new. To somebody that needed it even more than you. Well, that's the family, the SOCBDAB. $8 billion and beyond is what we trying to reach. Sending cards with a little love is what we trying to preach. And it's not what you learning, it's merely what you teach. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with SOC? Every last on me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with SOC? You ever had a prompt and didn't follow? Wish you did. And so you said you never make that mistake again. With SOC, you can keep that promise to the end and show others how to spread the love within. I picked a card, typed the words from my heart, then I sent it. 37 seconds. That's all it takes to get up out of the brakes. When the green flag waves, we gon' race. Act on your promptings, yeah, Cody wrote it in a book. And if you ever losing track, then take a second look. Priming the pump, that's all it really ever took. Now you got all the ingredients, it's time to cook. Feeling like an eagle, spread my wings and then I soar. Never judging, always leave my ego at the door. United we stand, no matter if you rich or poor. With a touch of a button, you never see a store.
From Yale or jail, accept you as you are. Went from behind bars to sending cards and racing cars. Went from checkered past and now it's checkered flag. Now I'm here with Biz and Dub and you know we laying trash.
You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with SOC? Every last lady. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. You know what SOC? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with SOC? Yeah, boy. Coming all the way live from the SOC. Kalamazoo. SOC Nation. Where are you?
Ben would often be at his car dealership on Sunday morning, supposedly catching up on paperwork. But I often wondered if he chose to be there when the church that rented next door was having church with their lively, loud music, clapping and shouting, "Praise the Lord." The thin walls allowed him to clearly hear them worship. Some of his favorite songs were by Casting Crowns and 10th Avenue North. Ben loved spending time on the farm with Grandpa Meeker, traveling, and everything racing. His grandpa Beeler coined the nickname BH, and it stuck with him throughout his life. He loved Chips Ahoy and Oreos and anything you could make out of them. He loved meatloaf with cream corn over his potatoes, just like my dad, and rolls with lots of butter. He and I both love fresh brewed iced tea. He loves a cold beer and any kind of bar food. He liked to cook, which he must have picked up from his grandma's. He made a wicked green bean casserole, liked to grill for his family, and Randy said Ben was the only one in our family who could duplicate Grandma Beeler's potato soup. I found a recipe that she actually wrote out for him. His favorite holiday was Christmas, and he liked getting dressed up, even when he was little. He liked watches and crazy Nike shoes. His favorite sayings were "Time kills deals," and "The story in your mind is the story of your life." He would buy only blue notebooks and blue pens, and he filled them with notes about cars, marketing, and future plans. He was a list maker. I know where he got that from. One of those plans was to write his autobiography, From Checkered Paths to Checkered Flags, which he had started an outline for. He was honored to be featured in our friend Karen Putz's book, and she was a huge encourager to him about writing his book. Ben was not always the son, brother, dad, husband, or friend he wanted to be, but he loved his family and friends more than any of you know. I pray each of you will choose to find a few good memories to hold close and to make perfect moments moving forward.